There we are. All right. Hey, guys, and welcome. My name is Guillory. I'm an integrative life coach, and my guest today is Lynda Richard. Lynda is a licensed massage therapist and an integrative life coach, specializing in relationships and intimacy post-trauma, after trauma, sexual trauma. And we're just going to have a conversation with you today. We're going to introduce Lynda. We're going to give you some takeaways, and you have the opportunity to ask questions at the end of the call. So we'll stay here. If you are watching YouTube Live, you can comment below and we'll get back to you on there. And we are ready to roll. We're going to jump right in. Hey, Lynda, welcome.
Hey, hi, it's great to be here. I'm so excited to get to talk with you all and hopefully get some questions asked so I can communicate with you guys.
So let's talk. We're going to dive right in. you know that part about me, right? So let's talk about before and after relationships, because this is something that you happen to step upon, right? You didn't realize that there was a problem with intimacy and relationships that had even a connection to
Oh,
sexual
absolutely
trauma.
not. I never really connected it just because, well, one, I hadn't really been in a relationship that was a healthy relationship. So the disconnect in my intimacy, I just attributed to the issues I had in my prior relationships. Then I come to a healthy relationship and bam, here's some intimacy issues again, and no idea where they were coming from. So prior to, I always kind of viewed intimacy as, obligation to the relationship. It wasn't something that was done for pleasure or for fun. It was just something you had to do if you were going to be in a relationship with somebody. And then here I was with this like amazing man that I wanted to have a good intimate relationship with. And I didn't have a desire. I didn't want to be intimate.
What was that like? Like you're saying, like it's almost like I wanted to want him kind of thing.
I
Like
did.
how would you explain that?
It is. That's exactly how it was. I wanted to want him. Like he was my husband. I loved him. I found him so attractive. And I would want to be intimate with him up to the point of when it happened. Then it was like I shut down. My whole body shut down. All the desire was gone to be physical. Like the moment the physical touch came into play, it was like all systems shut off.
So there was a desire before and then physical contact and then it would stop. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I want to be clear about it because I realized, like, because you and I have worked together for quite a while now, and there was that lack of awareness. It was almost like a normal thing, right? It was just kind of like the not wanting sex thing, right? Like that's how it kind of started out.
It just felt like, it felt normal. It felt normal to not want sex. But the crazy thing was, like, when we first were together, we had such a strong desire for each other and such like a passion for each other, and had trouble keeping our hands off of each other. And even at that point, I didn't recognize like I was still shutting down like my thoughts and my emotions, because at that time in my life, I was still drinking. And, to move away from drinking and starting to have to do the inner work and feel the feelings, I think that's when the desire started shutting off. Like good sex was, happened when I drank. But when I wasn't drinking anymore, it was like the moment came. It was like the moment of truth. And he was like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this anymore. But I got to.
So interesting. So you think like the liquor was the how do they say that, liquid courage? Like the liquor was helping you break through that, but then whenever you were sober, you were actually more aware and present? How would you describe that?
I think it was, I don't know that it was so much like liquid courage, so much as like it's okay. Or like not feeling the emotions. Like some people drank to feel better because they had a crappy day. Well, I mean, it made me feel good, so I was up for being intimate. Like I wasn't thinking and stressing or worrying about how it was making me feel. I was it let me shut all the negative emotions and negative feelings out to be able to have fun and enjoy being intimate with him.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. That's I might have said this differently, but it's almost as if because you had the alcohol in your system, you were more courageous, and you weren't really into you weren't didn't have to be in touch with the emotions
Right.
because you were drinking the alcohol,
Exactly.
and so you were in touch with the emotions or the feelings that came from the alcohol,
Exactly. Yeah.
which gave you the bravery into there. And so you
Right.
are you saying that it was basically like that, and then when you stopped drinking, had you put that together
I
before?
didn't put it together. I didn't put it together for like even after like my big aha moment connecting like my trauma and with my inability to have a healthy intimate relationship. It was even beyond that I connected the two of like it actually up in conversation like when sex stopped being so frequent and the intimacy and like the loving and patting and butt grabbing and all, those playful, fun things that couples do, like when that stopped, like my husband kind of questioned, like, what happened? Like, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, you used to be so playful and you used to be touchy feely and just like without even thinking, I said, and I used to drink too. Like in that moment, like I didn't have to think. The response just came out and it was like, oh my gosh, in that moment it clicked. Like that's what was allowing me to be touchy feely and lovey dovey and intimate. I was bypassing the uncomfortableness of physical touch by using the alcohol.
Yeah. So what I recall, and I think you just said it again, was the dissonance for yourself. That the part of like, I want him, like I want him,
Yeah.
but I can't get past this. What was physically happening in your body? Like, do you mind sharing that? I'm just,
Um, it varied from time to time, and like certain things would trigger, like after I stopped drinking and I started being more aware and present in the moment, I started being more aware of like the uncomfortable feelings. Like sometimes I'd feel like suffocated or claustrophobic. Sometimes I'd get that like gross, icky feeling like of disgust. And it really had nothing to do with him. Like he wasn't doing anything to make me feel these things. It was just stuff that was coming up, like a touch, a word, a look. And it was almost like an unconscious flashback to what I had experienced before. And I was feeling
mm,
those feelings of the pressure on my chest, the anxiety, the gross, like feeling gross and disgusting, feeling shameful. Like those feelings started coming up. And it was like I avoided physical touch because I didn't want to feel those things.
and then what was
And
happening in the relationship, right? What is,
yeah, it was, and obviously that caused tension and stress because like he had a desire for me. I had a desire for him and I wanted to want him. Like I wanted him to a point. And, like I said, he's handsome and attractive and, I wanted him, but I could not handle it. It was like there was a line. There was a line I couldn't cross. Um, and that became frustrating for him. And it started to wear on him because he felt like he was doing something wrong and making me feel a certain way, and he was feeling rejected, and then there was the guilt and shame about like me making him feel this way. um and it was like it kind of just started to snowball, and then we're combining families. I had my kids from a previous relationship, he had his child from a previous relationship, and trying to make a cohesive family. So, throw that stress on top of everything else. And the mind was everywhere but being present in the intimate moment. And it was tough. But going through the work, like I think I text you or called you the next day, there was a moment where like we were being intimate and it clicked. The feeling came up and it clicked. This is from this one time. This is a memory. This is a physical memory that I'm feeling. And I just reminded myself, like, I'm safe. This is my husband. He loves me. He's going to protect me. He's not going to harm me. He's not that person, and like just in the moment, in the moment, I'm reminding myself how much he loves me, how much he's going to protect me, how I'm safe in this moment. And the feeling just kind of like melted away. And I was able to be in the rest of that encounter with him.
Yeah. And you're pretty far into doing the work. So you had
Right.
that awareness, right?
Yeah.
Because we had processed so much of that stuff and it was basically just a memory, I'll say residue that was still left. You had already
Right.
worked the pieces and
Yeah.
you recognize that. But what about these who are listening? Like, how would this have been for you prior to starting the actual coaching work? So let's go back, right?
So
So think
before
about
that,
the
like
person
having,
who hasn't been introduced to the work. I'm sorry. And
okay, so just for example, there were times where I'd be like in the moment, being intimate, and like I would just have to be like, I can't, and I'm done. And like no warning, no nothing, just
okay. So
get up
we're
and go.
imagining that's probably what's happening in most of these households or bedrooms, right?
Yeah.
Like I know from doing coaching for this many years, it's very common that I hear it, but I think saying it allows someone else to hear it and hear their own story, which gives them permission to experience it from the side of awareness,
Yeah.
would you say? So would you,
It's
if you, before you did the work, would you have had the awareness that that's what was happening? You were saying no, you would have just turned it off and it would have just
Oh,
not been
yeah,
an option.
absolutely not. I didn't have the awareness, and I did. Like, we would be in the middle of trying to be intimate, and I would literally, like, push him off and be like, "I can't, I'm done." And that would be it. And then we would both leave frustrated because he's frustrated with me, and then, like, I'm frustrated because, like, I like, "What's wrong with me?" Like, I would think, "What is wrong with me?"
So what gave you the courage to push through that and figure out, because obviously you have to work through some processing and some vulnerability and some work.
Well, going through a lot of the work outside of the bedroom, obviously, made a huge impact. Becoming aware of my emotions, because, like I said, I
Mm.
had shut down all my emotions. I used to drink a lot, and so I didn't feel my emotions from my stressful day or whatever, and I was able to be intimate um, because I drank. But like I never processed emotions. I was hard or shut down and things didn't bother me, but I had my coping tool at that time to,
Isn't it interesting when it's turned off? We think, like, whenever you say things didn't bother me, we think
yeah.
we're like, yeah, I'm just relaxed. Nothing bothers me.
Yeah.
Like we fool ourselves into thinking that, right? In order to keep the defense.
Like one of the crazy things is like my husband has seen my transformation like through this process and going through all this work. And like when we first met, he would say like you were so cold, like you had no emotions, like, and then like now it's like you cry over everything. Like you're so emotional. But like I never really got to the pleasure of experiencing emotions before because I shut them all off to protect myself.
So, but I'm looking at the kind of the questions to bring by you. So, what was your view of what sex was in the relationship coming in, and what is your view of intimacy in the relationship now?
Sex before relationships, before coming into this relationship and doing the work was like, it's just an obligation. You have to, if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, you have to have sex with them. You're responsible for, satisfying their needs and they're responsible for satisfying yours. I didn't think of it as something fun or pleasurable at all because I personally physically and emotionally connected sex with something that bad that had happened to me. So to me, every time I had sex, it was almost like having to relive a traumatic experience, because the feeling and the emotions from experiencing that, I never worked through that. I never processed that. And every time I had sex, I felt like I felt afterward. After that experience I had, the sexual trauma that I experienced, and the way I felt afterwards, that's how I felt after sex every single time with a partner that I chose to have sex with. I mean, it was
So
like,
it's, you say, just basically white knuckling it for the sake of the marriage, like
yeah,
the being
absolutely.
obligated, wanting to stay married, needing to be, and like I'm just going to satisfy his needs and I'm just going to do
Yep,
this.
exactly. Yeah.
And how about now?
And now it's fun and it's pleasurable. Like, it's such a different thing to go in knowing you're going to be satisfied and you're going to enjoy it, and it's going to be fun and it's going to be loving, and um, you're going to feel safe, and you're not going to have all these crazy negative feelings and emotions come up. To go into it and be able to fully experience your partner is like, it's incredible. Um, I know I was talking about this earlier, was one of the things that I told my husband at one point. It's like, I get what guys mean when they're like, it feels good and you don't want it to stop. Like, I had never experienced that before. It was like, okay, let's get this over with, and now it's like, that's what the romanticized sex was like. Like, I never understood why people enjoyed sex. Like, that blew my mind. People actually enjoyed sex. And now that I get to experience it from like a very loving and safe place, it completely transformed the way I think about sex and intimacy.
What about so you kind of played into the obligation and feeling like you had to do it and you wanting to want it, but what about the actual ability to receive? What part do you think that played in? Do you think that was part of the problem, not just that it was?
My ability to receive, I think, had a lot to do with the touch is bad story that I had going in my head. Like, and like, just the grabbing, the kissing, coming from behind and giving me a hug, like my skin would crawl, I would cringe. Like, I was unable to receive any kind of physical affection. And I would pull away. I would like kind of push him away. And it it was just a matter of not feeling safe when touched. When touched without requesting it,
Yeah.
you know.
So, so it wasn't necessarily the I'm not worthy of receiving pleasure. It was more like I don't want to receive anything. Like,
Right, yeah, I didn't want any kind of physical touch. It was all physical touch was off limits, bad, meant something wrong, was shameful, led to something shameful.
interesting. What about, let's talk about desire.
Okay, so for desire, like we talked about earlier, like, I wanted to desire my husband after I stopped drinking, and like, I didn't have the desire to be physical like anymore. And that's when all the stress of everything else in our life like started to pile up. And that was what was on my mind. Being intimate with my husband was not on my mind. So the frustration and tension was there. But like, I don't even remember the conversation that I had that made me realize that I wanted to desire him. And then me and you had the conversation about the lemon. And it was like,
I
and
remember
it
that.
was like, wow, like that blew my mind. I'm like, okay. And So
So let's
instead of
share the conversation because it sounds like we're telling secrets now, right? We're like in the group and we're having the sleepover party and we have these guests who are like, "What lemon? What are you talking about?" So maybe you can just share the experience and so that they can understand where desire comes from and what you learned from that process. Like, how could you share that with someone else?
Okay, so as far as the desire goes, like I didn't even have a desire. Like physical intimacy was not on my radar. But whenever like me and you were having that conversation about like this tension that was coming from not having sex, and you're like, well, can can you just desire him? Can you just decide to desire him? I'm like, no, I can't just decide. Like he does this and he does that and he does this, and all I do, I stay frustrated with him. And then that's when you pointed out the lemon. I'm like, you know, this, if you imagine the smell of a lemon and like you imagine what a lemon looks like and you imagine squeezing that lemon underneath your nose, and it was like my mouth started watering and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was like, and then you're like, that's how you can do with desire too, you can make yourself desire him. And I think I went home that very day and I tried it, and it was so crazy how
Like,
I could
I'm sorry, go ahead.
how I could like remind myself of the moments where I did feel desire for him, that I had felt desire for him in the past, and remind myself of how I felt. And the moment he walked in the door that afternoon, like the first thing I did was run up and give him a big kiss because like I had a desire for him. It was,
It's like we forget or we forget that we know that
yeah.
desire comes from our thoughts.
Yeah.
Like we think desire is supposed to just like land on us, right? We're just supposed to get like excited or we're supposed to get inspired or we're supposed to get motivated. Like when I wake up in the morning, I should be motivated to work out. I should want to work out, right? No, guys, we have to train our brain. Like all feelings come from our thoughts. Desire is a feeling.
And I believe that about a lot of things, but I did not believe that about like me desiring to be intimate with my husband.
I remember arguing with you about it and I was like, "Linda, where do your feelings come from?" And you were like, and you listed like your brain was looking at all the reasons why you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. But it has like phenomenally changed our whole relationship. It's incredible.
So that opened the gateway, that opened the door for you to be empowered, right? We talk about gaining power and control of our
Mhm.
life. You now realize like, oh, actually I'm the one in charge of desire. And if I want to want him, I'm
Yeah.
for sure responsible for that. It's not his responsibility to like turn me on by cleaning the house or doing favors for me or sending flowers. It's
Yeah.
actually, right, me just honoring what I want also, which is an intimate and open relationship, a healthy relationship, which I want to talk on that for a minute. Did that play into part of the equation, this being uncomfortable with this unfamiliar, what do you do in a healthy relationship? Did you even know how to act with this
I
person?
I didn't. I still had all kind of safeguards set up in place because I was prepared to receive what I received in previous relationships. Um, because everybody can look good at first and act right at first. And so it was kind of like I was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, when's he going to start yelling at me? When's he going to start hitting me? When's he going to start doing this or that or controlling me, telling me I can't talk to this person or that person? And so I always had this guard up when it came to him, and I didn't know how to act normal. Whenever I would talk about going somewhere and I wasn't asked like, well, who's going to be there? How long are you going to be gone? It's like, I didn't know what to do with somebody that trusted me. Like, who doesn't care where you go? And so then there was the aspect of like, well, maybe he just doesn't care about me. But it wasn't that. I was actually in a healthy relationship where somebody trusted me enough to go to the store without me having an itinerary of what's going to happen between the time I leave the house and the time I get home, you know? But my brain wanted to make it into,
Yeah.
well, maybe he just doesn't care about you. So that's why he doesn't want to know what's going on. When before it was like, where are you going? Who's going to be there? Like, how long are you going to be? Because that person wasn't being a trustworthy person themselves. Therefore, they were projecting their mistrust onto me.
It's fascinating how the brain just picks it up like a magnet and wants to like bring it into every single relationship. Like
Oh
whatever
yeah.
we were told way back then, whatever we would just take all this stuff with us. And then we desperately find ourselves in relationships wanting to be in healthy, loving relationships that are intimate and open and that are fun and pleasurable. And it's like the neural pathways won't even allow us to go there. It's like it seems so unsafe.
You talk about like what we're told in the past, and one of the things that surprised me about what got brought into my current relationship is my husband finds me really attractive. And I could not believe it. I couldn't believe him, because while the guys I was with in the past, they would tell me that I'm beautiful or pretty or whatever, but when we would fight, they would like cut me down. Like, you're ugly. Nobody's ever going to want you. Why would somebody date somebody that looks like you? Like, would tear me down. And that corroborated stories from my childhood where I felt like I wasn't ever going to be pretty because of the color of my skin, the color of my hair, the color of my eyes. Um, and then I get in this relationship and he just lavished me with compliments, so much so it made me uncomfortable. Like, I did not know how to receive a compliment because you couldn't convince me that I was pretty. I knew better.
What were you thought? What were you thinking when he was saying that? He was flattering you. He was just trying to get his way. Like, what was the story that was going through
Oh
your head?
yeah, like, what is he trying to better me up for? What does he
Mm,
want?
mm.
There was an agenda. Like, you can't just tell me I'm pretty because you think I'm pretty, because I know it's not true. What are you after?
How was that for him? I mean, not that we can say how he feels, but I'm sure he expressed. I feel like it's something that he would
He
have.
would get so frustrated with me, and he would make the comment. He said, Lynda, the day you realize how amazing you are and how beautiful you are, you're going to leave me. I'm like, why would I ever leave you? He's like, you have no clue. But he would get so frustrated because he would get tired of me like coming against what he says. Like, he'd be like, you're beautiful. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. Or shut up. Like, stop being stupid. I'd tell him stuff like that. I'd tell him to shut up every time he tell me I'm pretty or beautiful or whatever the compliment was at the time. And he gets so frustrated with that.
What would you say to someone who's in this relationship that they're not even seeing the worthiness of themselves, like what you just said, right? That they're not even able to receive the compliments and the lavishing, for one thing. But then there's a part of them that does believe it, does see it. Did you have a little piece that one and two?
There was like, there's always been part of me that like, it's it's almost like you walk by the mirror and for a second you see somebody pretty in it. And then you're like,
Mm.
oh, that's just me. And then you see you for how you see you. But there's this little glimpse of a second where you notice like, oh, my eyes look nice today, or my hair looks good today. Like, you notice something that you can like about yourself. And so part of you recognizes that there's part of you that you like.
Do you
But then you,
recall what the story was that would come behind it? Like, you shouldn't think you're pretty. How dare you? Like, yeah, like, do
oh
you remember what it
yeah,
was?
to think highly of your own appearance is vanity. And how dare you like the way you look? How dare you present yourself as a pretty person? Like, I could never. I felt guilty to like say thank you when someone would tell me I'm pretty or tell me I looked nice or I love your outfit. Like, I felt like I had to be like, oh, like this whole thing, or oh, it's like I got it at Goodwill, or oh, like somebody gave it to me, or I always had something to come back to like lessen their compliment,
Yeah, to
or
minimize or
yeah,
rationalize,
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
explain and not be able to receive it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm laughing in my mind because I'm thinking about the day whenever the world opened up for you and you sent me a text and said, I don't know, it was you or Kevin that was like, I'll pay you 4 times what you charged
Oh,
me."
yeah.
Do you remember
Kevin
that? You were
Kevin
like,
told me, he said, you need to pay her like 4 times what you paid her. This is what's gonna happen. Yes, it was amazing. And I think that was like the first time, can I talk about this on camera? It almost feels like wrong to.
Right, but and I want to invite you to talk about it in the way of, because this, let's talk about it to the client who is like new to coaching, because this was new to both of you guys. And it was great
Yeah,
sometimes, but
yeah.
then when it wasn't working in his favor, it was terrible. And then it was,
Oh,
so
yes.
let's just kind of share that because it's a fun story that we've evolved from.
Okay, so this is like, it's kind of a funny story. So, yeah, when my mood was changing and when things were going good, and then I was more willing to have sex, oh my gosh, coaching was like the best thing since sliced bread. And then when I started getting a little more independence and I was being like a little bit more firm in what I believed in, it was like, oh, I don't like this coaching thing too too much. But the biggest thing was like, and I don't even know how to say this, but like the orgasm.
Vitamin O, let's just call it vitamin O. No,
It
whatever
was
you want.
it was I, I never experienced somebody that wanted to give me vitamin O and that was willing to give me vitamin O before they received vitamin O. And and I couldn't receive it. At first I could not receive it. And I would shut it down and be like, "No, that's okay." But when I finally got to the point to where like, dang it, like I deserve to get this too. Like you get to experience all this and I don't get to experience this. Like I want to experience it too. And I had worked through a lot of that stuff to where I was able to start enjoying being intimate with him more. And the day I was able to just like let it all go and enjoy it completely, I thought like, man, if everybody had this, like the world would be like, "Man, this is how you get world peace."
It's like direct path to God. Like here's the heavens. The
Yeah,
doors
I
are
mean,
open.
it's just crazy to think that like for so long in my life, like I refused that.
Yeah, I think you said that in the chat because I was laughing. I was like, can we share this on Facebook? Like this is like the cool thing, right? Because it was that
I have to
moment
go
you
back
were
and
just,
find that text.
yeah. But it was something in you that opened up. Your voice changed, the demeanor changed. You had a light. It's like you found some secret, like you found something. You found like maybe pleasure for the first time ever. Maybe it was surrender for the first time ever. What would you say it was when you
I think it was
allowed
a little bit of
yourself to go?
it was a little bit of both. I think it was the first time in my life that I liked the way I looked. I was able to accept that he truly was attracted to me. So that in itself, like truly being able to believe that he was attracted to me that much made me so much more receptive to being intimate with him. Like not sitting here thinking the whole time we're being intimate that he's judging my body because I like the way I look. And so I was able to believe that he liked the way I look. So that made me more comfortable in the moment. And being comfortable in the moment, I was able to like experience like the smell and the feel and like every single second of it, like to feel every single bit of it. And to finally feel like I deserved the pleasure as well and like actually allow him to please me. And I never allowed him to do that and I would push him away and like shove him off. And because I didn't want, I don't like, there was part of it was connected to the, the meaning behind it. There was a shame behind it. But then part of it was connected to like, I didn't know how to receive that kind of pleasure. I don't think I had ever had that kind of pleasure before.
Yeah. It's like when you find that first trusted friendship that
Yeah, it's
no
almost
matter
like
what you do, they still love you. Like but yet there's still a part that's still like I have to tell, like I can't tell you everything or I can't upset you because you're going to leave me. But
yes, and then there's that point like what if it's so good like I can't leave afterwards?
Oh, interesting. So I'm thinking of it being like permission to please, like for you, like giving yourself permission, and him, like it's that. It's like, yes, you have permission to please me. But
Yeah,
you
yeah, and I
just
didn't
said,
get
but it's not safe because you please me and I get used to this and you can take it away from me. So to
yeah,
lose it. Interesting.
yeah. hmm
I
But
would
and
say
for
upper
me,
limit,
it's
right?
funny
Limiting
because
belief that
I had also been through like several like, a few relationships before. So like, what if this ended and I never found this again?
self-sabotage, like let's destroy
Yeah,
it ahead of time.
yeah.
Interesting.
If I never get there, then I never have to miss it.
How frustrating was that for you?
Well, I didn't realize how frustrating it was until after
Yeah.
I experienced it. And yeah, it was. And now just having the freedom and ability to have that, it's like it's exciting and liberating and like,
Do you think
man, so many years I've missed out. you know,
yeah.
to
Do you-
truly enjoy a relationship to its fullest potential. Like you can have a good relationship, and I know sex is not everything, but man, like how much like the cherry on the cake, the cherry on the sundae. It's
the long yop.
there you go. It's the good stuff, the extra.
The long yop. So would you say you've said this word several times and I'm not sure if you heard yourself, but feel. Allowed myself to feel. I feel. Do you like what percentage of this do you think was that you had shut that ability to feel off? And if that's a big, so I'm thinking of the ones who are watching this.
I would say probably 80-90% of it had to do with shutting my feelings off. Like so much so, I think I almost subconsciously chose massage therapy as a career path just so I could have safe touch.
Nice. Yeah, I can see that.
I
So,
had
and
never had a massage before I became a massage therapist.
so there's a part of you that knew that wait, the massage therapy part actually took you into the, I mean, it got you here even to the work.
Right.
Like it
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
was the device to get you in. Um, so I'm thinking when what we didn't realize is that when we turn off feelings in order to protect ourselves, that you can't just turn off fear. You can't just put on this protection code without actually blocking love. Like
Yes.
when you can't you can't selectively turn off one emotion.
Yeah. It's
It's
on and off
all.
switch. You don't get to pick and choose. I definitely blocked off a lot of I was definitely not open to a lot. So much so that whenever I met Kevin, I told him, I'll never marry again. So don't I like if that's what you're interested in, in me for, don't even bother.
And here we are.
Yep.
So is there anything that I didn't ask you about? I'm looking, I did have a few little notes to I know one of the things you talked about was present moments. Like, could you give us just a little roadmap or a little guidance or a little framework of how the work started or what opened up for you first? Like for someone who's listening, who's like, well, it must be nice to be you. Like I used to say, right, when I'd read the books and I'd throw them against the wall, like, must be nice that you broke through it, but it's not possible for me and I'm stuck here and that kind of thing. So what would you say?
I would say like I didn't recognize that I needed the work in my intimate life until I started doing the work personally. Um, just because I knew that there was stuff holding me back, keeping me small. Um, I was angry a lot and I didn't know why. And just having the desire to not live life angry all the time or frustrated all the time or snapping at my kids all the time, that was where the desire to start changing or growing and evolving into a better person came from. And then from doing the work is where I started becoming more aware of things in my life. So I was able to see how my emotions were shut off and how I wasn't able to receive.
Yeah, I'm thinking if we stepped back to the moment like when we met. So you came here from Texas
Hmm.
and we were sitting across from this desk having a conversation. What did you hear, know, recognize, become curious about that first? Because you came in for a job. You can come in for
Okay,
coaching
so
and for personal relationship.
the part,
What
I
did you
guess the
hear?
little trigger for me there was we were having the conversation, and you were talking about why I was down here, like what brought me down here, and how things had changed in my life, and how things had been for me since I got down here. And I was talking about how like I had like recently started feeling like kind of down and this and that. And you're like, well, what happened in the month of April? And that was when my daughter's father had committed suicide, was April 13th. And like I didn't even put the two together that um like I was having emotions from something that I didn't even like.
Like I recognize that something like I was just bringing to your attention like
Right.
the month of.
Yeah, like I was having these emotions and I had no idea where they were coming from. And so you asked me like, what, like, has anything happened in the month of April, like in the past? And I was like, oh, well, my daughter's father, committed suicide in April, the year before or 2 years before. And so like making that connection that what I was feeling wasn't something from the present causing that feeling. It was like,
Oh, wow. Was that your first awareness of
that was,
understanding that the body
yeah,
keeps the score?
that was the very first time
Oh, I didn't
I
know that.
realized. And that's why I called, that was the hook. That was like, you got me there and I was not going anywhere after that.
The conversation brought your awareness. It awokened your awareness to
Yeah,
realizing how the mind body work,
right.
how the,
In that moment, I realized that the feeling in my body was connected to an experience that I had in the past. And I had never, ever realized that was possible before.
and I remember you calling me not long after that, I think you called or texted me and you said, I think you were trying to make this relationship work and you were really struggling. And you said, I need coaching. Can you help me? It was like really innocent because it was before you became a coach. Like I'm talking about way in the back.
Yeah,
Like it was
yeah.
like a handful of
It
sessions or
was like
something you wanted, but you talked to Kevin about it.
we had like I was raised in Texas and he was raised down here. We like had two different upbringings. I was military, I've traveled all over, and he had been around here for like his whole life. So we were very, very different people. And he was a very good man. And I really did want this relationship to work, but we were butting heads in a lot of areas. And I didn't realize it then, but I was still doing a lot of my self-sabotaging, like picking fights and doing things to make him mad at me, doing things to try to make him leave me. And I wasn't recognizing it, but I knew I wanted this relationship more. And even though in the moment I was doing things to try to end, like my actions were showing that I wanted the end of the relationship, like I wanted the relationship. And I knew that there was something going on and I needed help to see what was going on.
Okay. So you, because I'm trying to take it back to the person because coaching is still kind of a new thing, and especially the kind of coaching that we're doing. I mean, we created the process, right? So it's
Yeah.
like really new, of understanding that like our mind, our thoughts create our feelings, and then our feelings compel us to take certain actions, and then we get the results, which was exactly you. I'm not worthy. I'm not deserving. This is going to end, and then you felt frustrated or scared or whatever it was, and then you went into self sabotage, is what you just
Right.
said. And then the results are a busted up relationship, which is completely what you attracted, what you made happen. Like you took the actions for it because you were scared. So you did it ahead of time. So
Right.
instead of me being surprised by it and him beating me or walking out the door or leaving, whatever it is, like I'm going to go ahead and do it myself. Right.
Exactly.
But that's one piece of it. Like we kind of think we have it all together from there, and then we realize there's a whole nother piece, and that's the emotional processing technique. And when the work I'm recall doing with you was sitting in this room in that brown chair, and that was when the veil started, and your lens began to change.
Mhm.
And not long after that, you were like, I need to share. I got to do this. Like I'm telling, I got to do this. I want to know more about this. Right. It's almost like
Yeah.
addictive because that sense of liberation,
It
nothing
was like
compares to it.
just that little bitty taste of what it gave me. And I knew that there was so much more to come after that. It was like, oh my gosh, like this is like limitless. Like there is like all the possibilities are open now. Like if I can change this, then what else can I change?
Yeah. So good. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to share? Is there anything like bubbling up in your mind that you were like, oh, I wish we would have talked about that? We did mention a little bit about obligation and duty, about present moment, about receiving.
No, I think we covered a lot of the big stuff. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that
Okay.
is just
Can
like
you tell these folks what you do now? Like, because this is something that was like kind of surprisingly came into your world. It wasn't, you were just coming here to be a massage therapist and
right.
everything turned. And
Yeah,
now
this was
you're
not on
focused.
my radar at all. But when it came up, there was no doubt that this is the direction I needed to go, and I jumped on that train. So for me, what I do, I am an integrative relationship coach, and I help people that struggle with having happy, healthy relationships because of the safeguards they put up. Like myself, I had so many safeguards that I didn't even recognize that I had that were causing tension and issues in my relationship that I had, that I really wanted this relationship to work. And my actions were doing everything against it. So what I do is I help people become aware of the things, of the actions that they're doing. So right now they may only see it as like, I don't know what's wrong with my marriage. I love him. I don't know what's going on. We never have sex. Why? And I don't know why. So there might be some questions as to, you know, he makes good money. I have a good job. Like we're happy. We're on the same page with raising kids. Like, but there's something lacking, or there's something that's constantly causing tension between us, and you just can't figure it out. And it might be the lack of intimacy. And where is that coming from?
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious if they even know the pleasure that they're missing because you're saying you didn't. You didn't even know that was available. Like when you were like, holy smoke, what just happened? What is this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have had sexual trauma in the past or physical abuse in the past, and sex is just going through the motions for you, yeah, definitely you should shoot me a message, because there's so much more to be had in your relationship than just going through the motions.
Yeah.
We're talking about just in the bedroom right now, but the intimacy that comes outside of the bedroom from being able to connect with them so intimately and deeply, um, it extends beyond the bedroom.
For
Like
sure.
I'm so much more loving and cuddly and playful with my husband now that like we've experienced this, like we made this connection, and it's like such I don't even know how to explain the connection. It's almost like the puzzle pieces finally fit together,
Nice.
and so now it's like everything else is like we're just filling in the borders, you
So
know.
good. All right, I will put your information in the show notes, so guys, you can reach out, find it. We'll put your website or phone, whatever, however you want to be contacted, your email, down below. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off of YouTube Live. If there's any questions here on the Zoom call, so we do both. If ever you guys who are on YouTube want to come on over and you want to be able to be part of the conversation, then you can do that too. We do this every week on Thursday at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. The topic changes from week to week, but it's always about health, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial, occupational, all of it. Like it's an integrative approach, bringing or bridging spirituality to the material world. So it's bringing all healthy aspects to the table. So we want to really look at optimal health in all areas. All right. So I'm going to take this off and